everyone, I'm Katrina and today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read in the month of September, which was an amazing reading month. I read 6 books, which is pretty good, and I rated all of them between 4 and 5 stars. There were 4 4-star books, 1 4.5-star, and 1 5-star read. So let's start with the books I rated 4 stars. Moonrise by Sarah Crossan is a verse novel. We follow Joe, who hasn't seen his brother in 10 years because his brother Ed is on death row. Ed has now been given his execution date and Joe moves closer to where he is being kept to spend the last few weeks with him. As you can probably tell by the synopsis, this is not a light read. It is emotional, it is intense, it touches on topics like the justice system, murder, substance abuse. It also talks about family a lot. I thought it was really interesting to see the dynamic between different members of Joe's family. The aunt in particular was really interesting to me. She's not someone that is very present through a lot of the book, but I was really interested in her character. Obviously, the relationship between Joe and Ed is quite complex. Joe was quite young when Ed was sentenced to death, so he hasn't known him for pretty much all of his teenage years. So the two of them reuniting after such a long time and kind of getting to know each other again during those last weeks, knowing that Ed has a date that he's going to be killed, was really intense. I would definitely recommend having some tissues nearby when you're reading this. Don't do what I did and read this on public transport because you'll make a little bit of a fool out of yourself, but it was absolutely beautiful. I really enjoyed reading this as a verse novel as well. It's been a while since I have read one, but I think Sarah Crossan did a great job. I also read Grey Veil by Lynette Noni. This is the 4th book in the Madoran Chronicles. I am one of Lynette's critique partners, and I'm including this in a wrap-up since the book is actually pretty close to completion. As for any of the other books that I read earlier manuscripts on, I'm not really going to be talking about in wrap-ups. But since the book is nearing the end of the editing process and it will be coming out early next year, I'm gonna talk about it to get you guys excited about it because it was really, really good. If you guys remember me talking about the 3rd book in the series, what I really loved about it was that it was kind of this turning point in the entire series. There were obviously still a lot of the really fun and enjoyable and light moments, but it was taking a bit of a turn into darker territory. And this 4th book definitely delves into more of that. The stakes just get higher and higher. Alex, she just has so much on her shoulders, and I really admire her as a character because even though there's situations where she knows that it's not likely that she will succeed, she does it anyway because she's just so selfless and knows that it's the only thing that she can do. We got to explore a few different areas in Medora, which was really cool. I kind of wish that we were able to spend a little more time in each of those and actually get to learn about the different areas, the different customs, and the people that actually live there. We got just a taste of it and I was really intrigued by what I saw, so I kind of wished that we got to see more of that. It was also just so nice seeing Alex and her friends. I love that squad that we have in the Medora Chronicles. They're just an amazing friend group. Also, Lynette is coming out with a series of short stories. Each of the short stories will be going more into the lives of each of Alex's best friends, which I'm so excited about. So if you love that squad just as much as I do, definitely keep an eye out for that one. And speaking of characters as well, there's one kind of potential romantic interest. There's absolutely nothing really going on romantically. There's no relationship, but you can tell that these two characters have feelings for each other and it's been such a slow burn. So I can't wait for book 5 to see what happens there, if anything does happen. And as well as that, I do feel like the 4th book really does set up for the events of the final book. It is kind of putting all of these things in place for things to happen in book 5. So at the end of book 4, I can't wait, but I have to, I guess. I'll just have to wait. So really enjoyed Grey Veil. Can't wait to see what happens in the 5th book. Hope you guys are excited about it. A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This is actually a reread for me. I read this for the first time in 2015, but recently I decided that I wanted to continue on with the series and actually finish it, and I thought it would be a good idea to actually reread A Darker Shade of Magic. Very glad that I did because I realized that there was so much that I had forgotten that happened in it. Some of the scenes that I could picture in my head when I thought of A Darker Shade of Magic were totally wrong. My memory has failed me, so I'm really glad that I did reread this one. I enjoyed it just as much as I did the first time round. It is a 4-star read for me. I really, really loved the world, the characters. They were all so complex and mysterious, but this book is just so atmospheric. V.E. Schwab is a master with words. She just is really able to make you feel like you're inside that world, and going between the different Londons, they felt so different at their core. There isn't much that I can really fault about this book. I really enjoyed it, but it just didn't feel like a 5-star read to me. It didn't grip me quite enough. There wasn't just something that completely dragged me into the story and made me not want to put this down. I read this quite leisurely. Granted, I have done like a month and a half of pretty intense reading, so maybe the timing was just off, but when I put the book down, I wasn't immediately wanting to pick it back up again. So I don't know, it just almost was there, but like I said, really enjoyed it. Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. This book begins with young Rose Franklin discovering a giant metallic hand. This hand is made of an extremely rare metal and actually predates pretty much all human civilization. Fast forward a few decades, Rose Franklin is now a scientist and she believes that there are more pieces to this giant metallic being. So she leads a team to discover the remaining pieces and figure out what the hell it is, why it is there, what it does, etc. I listened to the audiobook of Sleeping Giants and I would certainly recommend it. It was a great listening experience. First of all, it is a cast of voice actors, so each of the characters does have a different voice actor. I didn't have a problem with any of the voice actors. I think they all did a good job, and obviously listening to a cast of them makes it for a much more fun and interesting experience, and you don't get any of the characters mixed up. If any of you listen to the audiobook of Illuminate and or Gemina by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, I think you'd probably enjoy this, just with the way that it does have the cast of actors, but it's also got the science fiction elements, as well as the format is relatively similar. It is kind of a dossier, it has interviews and personal journals, things like that. Overall, really enjoyed the narration. I really liked to listen to the audiobook, would highly recommend. As for the book itself, I obviously still really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The whole mystery about this hand was really interesting to see unfold. I really liked a lot of the characters. They're not all likable characters, but as you get to know them, you start to empathize with them, even though you're not really getting inside their heads. But I still really liked getting to know all of the characters through this format. There are a few characters as well that my opinions shifted throughout the course of the book, just because they are so complex and fascinating. The reason I didn't give this a full 5 out of 5 stars is you can definitely tell that this is setting up for the rest of the books in this series. I believe that there are only going to be 3 books. I've started listening to the audiobook of Waking Gods at the moment as well. Action is a lot higher than what it is in this book. A good majority of this book is about discovering what this hand is, if there are any other parts, things like that. So it is a bit slower in pace. There's not a lot of high action. Towards the end, things do start getting pretty intense, but definitely in comparison to Waking Gods, nowhere near as intense. Every Heart a Doorway by Shonen Maguire is about Eleanor West's wayward home for children, which is a place for children to go to kind of come to terms with the fact that they're back in reality after having been transported into fantastical worlds. So think of portal fantasies such as Alice in Wonderland, Narnia, those kinds of stories where children walk through a door or find themselves in a completely different world than the one that they were born in. And these children have been brought back to reality and they're not dealing with it very well. A lot of the time they want to go back, but they can't find their own door. So the Wayward Home for Children is a place for them to go to be around people that have also experienced similar things to them, since a lot of their family and friends don't believe them that they had been transported into a fantastical world. Instead, they think that they've gone mad, so they're able to find some comfort in being around people that actually understand them and believe them, and just to kind of come to terms with the fact that they're back in a reality that they don't want to be in. They want to be in that other reality, that other world for them. I'm not going to say any more about the actual plot of this book just because it is such a short book. I think it is best going into this just knowing the context of the book. We do have some diversity in here as well. Nancy, the main character, she is asexual. There is another character who is trans, and there were really quite open discussions about it without any judgment, which was really great to see. This was just such a fun book. I love the concept of it, and despite its size, it really is jam-packed full of goodness. So I would highly recommend it. I'm hoping to read the companion novel to this one very, very soon, and I think the 3rd book's coming out sometime in the future. Not entirely sure when, but there is a 3rd one coming. My 5-star read for September was They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. Oh my goodness, guys. I'm actually going to be doing a full spoiler-free review of this one, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here. I will try and remember to link it down below when I get around to doing that, but you know me. In this book, there is a company called Deathcast, and they will call you on the day that you're going to die and tell you, hey, you're going to die in the next 24 hours, sort out anything that needs to be sorted, and live it to the fullest. We follow 2 characters, Matteo and Rufus, who connect using an app called Last Friend, which is essentially an app to connect 2 people that have been called by Deathcast. So Matteo and Rufus connect, and they spend their last day together. Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna try not to cry. Hilariously, in my August book haul, when I hauled this and I was talking about the synopsis, I started to cry when filming the video. I hadn't even read it at that stage, and I was already tearing up. So can you imagine how I was reading this book? I was in the middle of a readathon and was vlogging my reading experience and caught some of my reaction on camera. Before I started filming, I was sobbing like a baby. Absolutely sobbing. So obviously with the title, you know kind of how this book is going to end, but this book is about the journey. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. This book was just so fantastic. I loved the main characters. It was also great in terms of representation. We have one gay Puerto Rican main character with OCD. We also have a bisexual Cuban main character, and there is some own voices representation in here. The characters were beautiful humans, and I really enjoyed kind of seeing them two separately, but seeing how the two of them and the friendship that develops between the two of them changes them, kind of brings them out of their shell. I would highly recommend this, though if you don't do well with sad books and books that make you cry, maybe not the best book for you. I have never cried reading a book so hard. I'm pretty sure I sobbed harder reading this than in The Book Thief and also in Strange the Dreamer. I was an absolute mess. It was worth it, I think. I mean, my heart's still broken, but I do think it was worth it. But like I said, full spoiler-free review of this one is coming soon. So that is it for my reading wrap-up for the month of September. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of the books that I mentioned down in the comment section below, but I would also love to hear what your favorite book was that you read in the month of September. Let me know down below. That's all that I have for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you very soon in a new video, but until then, I will talk to you in the comments. Bye!